Melania Trump returns to the campaign trail for the first time since the Republican convention.
Mrs. Trump reaching out to the all-important female voters here in battleground Pennsylvania. I'm Jason Calvia, taking you here to the campaign trail coming up.
Donald Trump and President Obama crisscross Florida, courting voters in one of the country's biggest battleground states. Thousands of people evacuate Mosul as Iraqi troops enter the city for the first time in 2 years. And the Cubs' chaplain celebrates the team's World Series win. We'll talk to him on EWTN News Nightly for Thursday, November 3rd, 2016. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lauren Ashburn. The election is 5 days away, and today Melania Trump hit the campaign trail solo for the first time, saying our political culture has become too mean and too rough. She was last seen at the Republican National Convention in Philadelphia in July. Jason Calvi joins us from the Philadelphia suburb of Berwyn. Jason, how did her speech play to the crowd?
They seemed pretty enthused to hear from her again the first time since she mentioned the RNC. She did read again from a teleprompter today. She laid out her vision for a Trump White House. A possible First Lady, Melania Trump says what she'll do in the White House.
Do we want a country where every child has access to a good education? Yes! Do we want children to be safe and secure and dream big dreams? Yes. Do we want a president who is beholden to no one but you, the American people? I will be an advocate for women and for children. Let me tell you a little bit more about what that means to me. I'm a full-time mother to our son, Baron.
Suburban women are a key for Trump winning the White House. The new Washington Post ABC poll finds Clinton winning women 51 to Trump's 41%.
And as a woman, I trust he'll get things done and protect me and our country and our children.
The Clinton campaign is painting Donald Trump as anti-woman.
So you treat women with respect?
I can't say that either.
And those ads are playing nonstop here in Pennsylvania. The candidates are crisscrossing the state. Donald Trump and Mike Pence shared a stage earlier this week in this state. Donald Trump's here again tomorrow, and Mike Pence is here tonight. Hillary Clinton will be in the state tomorrow, and then she just announced today her final rally before the big election day. Her final rally Monday night is in Pennsylvania, in the city of brotherly love. Lauren?
Jason, there's also a big Senate contest happening there. First-term Senator Toomey won last time by just 80,000 votes. That was out of 4 million cast. Can we expect another nail-biter?
Yeah, this state definitely, for presidential elections, leans Democrat. The last time they picked Republican was in 1988 for the presidency. But they have had a number of Republican senators, as you mentioned, Toomey, and then as well, the person you interviewed a few nights ago, Senator Rick Santorum.
Jason, there are also two notable House seats up for grabs in Pennsylvania. How are they looking?
Yeah, one of them now it looks like the Republican is out in front in the polls there, but there is still one of those House races that's just too close to call right now, and the push continues here in Pennsylvania.
You don't want to hear this, Jason, but I think maybe you need to set up camp in Pennsylvania up until Election Day. Have a safe trip back. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, Lauren.
Donald Trump tells voters in Florida Hillary Clinton could create a constitutional crisis if she's charged with a crime over her email.
A high-ranking government official has been caught selling her public office, threatening national security, and engaging in a massive criminal cover-up. If she were to win, it would create unprecedented constitutional crisis.
Trump continues to say Clinton lied to the FBI dozens of times. And Trump's campaign manager says he and his family, Trump and his family, don't get the credit they deserve. Kellyanne Conway says they've made enormous sacrifices to run for president.
He didn't need the money, the fame, the power, the prestige, the position. He had all of that. And he and his family, who are just amazing, have sacrificed enormously. And I think it just gives him this connective tissue with people.
President Obama continues his push for the Clinton-Kaine ticket in the battleground state of Florida, where the polls show Clinton and Trump neck and neck. Now, Obama calls him unfit to be president and trounced Trump on his treatment of women and people of faith.
If you disrespected women before you were in office, you will disrespect women as president. If you discriminate against people of different faiths before you are president, then that is what you will do in office.
Republicans accuse President Obama of discriminating against people of faith and rolling back religious freedoms, like his birth control mandate against the Little Sisters of the Poor. The chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee wants the Justice Department to determine if politics interfered with the Clinton email investigation. Chuck Grassley asks the department's independent inspector to find out why key officials like Attorney General Loretta Lynch failed to recuse themselves from the investigation, creating what looks like a conflict of interest. CNN is under fire for not revealing the results of an internal investigation earlier this week. Leaked emails revealed that one of their pundits, Donna Brazile, passed on debate questions to Hillary Clinton's campaign. Brazile, who is now the interim chairman of the Democratic National Committee, was a paid contributor to CNN at the time. Joining us now is Joe Concha, reporter for The Hill, who covers media. Welcome to the program, Joe.
Good to see you again, Ms. Ashburn. You were looking tremendous.
Thank you so much. Back to you as well. You know, CNN says they launched an internal investigation and say they did nothing wrong. And you are calling for CNN to convene an outside firm to investigate. Why do you think they haven't done that?
I don't quite know. I think they're satisfied maybe with their internal mechanisms, Lauren, that they have the people internally that can look into this. Jeff Zucker said that actually yesterday at a town hall that
CNN,
they have conducted an investigation. Yep, president of CNN, that the investigation's concluded and that they're satisfied with what they found. And the conclusion they've come to internally is that the questions that were passed along by Donna Brazile to the Clinton campaign did not come from CNN, but from outside sources. So here's the thing. If another WikiLeaks dump happens and Brazile is passing
Brazile's
all
name is in
questions,
there, right?
they've really dug themselves a hole. If nothing happens and nothing else is revealed, then the story probably goes away. But here's where the stench is, Lauren, that I think this will be a teaching moment for any network, that we can't hire people that are double dipping like Donna Brazile, where she's the DNC vice chair and she's a CNN contributor, because you're only begging to be compromised.
I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you right there, Joe, and tell you that nobody is going to learn this lesson, that this has been happening for time immemorial. Now, are you really surprised like this, that something like this didn't happen sooner? Or do you just think this is the first time someone got caught?
I'm willing to bet that we're only learning of this because of WikiLeaks and one person's email account, but you got to think maybe it did happen before. I mean, you look at Corey Lewandowski, this isn't just a Democratic thing, but he was getting paid by the Trump campaign for months after joining CNN. So you have all these conflicts. And here's the thing, Lauren, these people aren't being hired because they offer such compelling analysis. You know what you're going to get even before they open their mouths.
Every single time, Joe, it's talking point after talking point after talking point.
Right, boring. They're there primarily so they can provide access for the networks to get to people within campaigns. In Donna Brazile's case, she could get anybody within the DNC, maybe Hillary Clinton herself. And in Lewandowski's case, I always found it interesting that Melania Trump did an interview with Anderson Cooper when all that controversy was going on, when Trump used to bash CNN saying, I'm not going to allow it to go on there.
And funny that Donna Brazile worked at CNN, right? I completely agree with your point. I hear what you're saying. I'm so delighted to see you. Glad that you were able to join us here at EWTN. That's Joe Concha, the media reporter for The Hill.
Thanks, Lauren.
Other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. America's longest war claims the lives of 2 more U.S. troops. They were reportedly taking part in a raid that killed dozens of Taliban fighters, including 2 of their commanders. NATO says 2 other U.S. troops were wounded. The The leader of ISIS urges his followers to keep up the fight for Mosul. They are defending the city against a major Iraqi-led offensive aimed at rooting out the militants from the last urban stronghold in Iraq. Wyatt Goolsby is here. He reports.
Lauren, for the first time in more than 2 years, Iraqi forces are fighting ISIS inside Mosul, but Iraqi security forces say taking back the city will not be easy. ISIS militants are being told to dig in for a long fight. Iraqi forces take on ISIS in and around Mosul, a city of more than 1 million people under the control of the terrorists since June of 2014.
I know this, the enemy were surprised, and some other observers were surprised on the day they started. So I think the Iraqis achieved what they wanted to achieve.
The Iraqi military has recaptured a neighborhood in the eastern part of the city. Troops are clearing out the area house to house since the neighborhood is still dangerous. Iraqis say living under ISIS control was oppressive. This man says it was like being in a big prison. Meanwhile, the leader of ISIS is urging militants elsewhere to carry out attacks in Saudi Arabia and Turkey. Thousands of Iraqi civilians are fleeing their homes as fighting intensifies. Blaise Mishtal, an expert in foreign policy and security, says rooting out ISIS will not be easy.
They like to use civilian shields, which makes it harder to conduct operations because you have to find ways to get at ISIS, but not the civilians that they're hiding behind. We know that they like to use booby traps, whether that's IEDs and car bombs or possibly booby traps within buildings.
Mishtal says he doesn't expect a quick victory, but if the coalition wins, he says it will send a strong message to the people of Iraq.
It's a chance for the Iraqi forces to show that they are not oppressive, that they are not bloodthirsty, and that they fight for all Iraqis, whether they're Sunni, Shiite, or Kurdish.
The United Nations says some 22,000 people have been displaced as a result of the fighting in and around Mosul. About half of those are in refugee camps and others are staying in host communities. Nearly 10,000 of those are children. Many are in need of food, water, and medicine. Lauren?
Thank you very much, Wyatt. Nina Shea, the director of the Center for Religious Freedom at the Hudson Institute, joins us now. Nina's an expert in Christian persecution. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm sorry you have to be an expert in such a horrible, horrible thing, but we're glad that you're here. You say that the Obama administration has abandoned Christian refugees. You say they have entrusted them to the UN, and it doesn't even acknowledge their genocide, right? So what is the UN doing wrong?
Well, the UN's camps are not available to the Christian refugees in the region. They are dangerous for them. They are hunted inside that camp by the same forces that persecute them outside the camp. And then in Erbil, which has the largest number of refugees, Christian survivors of ISIS, the Archdiocese of Erbil, the Chaldean Archdiocese, testified in U.S. Congress last month that they have not seen the UN or the U.S. In terms of aid since the opening days of the refugee crisis 2 years ago.
For 2 years, you're saying that the UN has not been giving aid
to the main group of Christian refugees from Iraq.
Well, you're in close contact with obviously a lot of people there, including church groups. So if the UN isn't doing it, what are the church groups doing, and how are they helping?
Well, the local churches are caring in every possible way for these Christians. They have for 2 years. So they're providing their food, their medicine, their shelter, their education, anything. They're total mendicants. They've been stripped of all their property and wealth by ISIS and lost many loved ones. Now, the international aid groups like the Aid to the Church in Need, the Knights of Columbus, Kanewa, these are the groups, Samaritan's Purse, that are providing the local churches with the means to do that.
And we've interviewed Carl Anderson, the heads of the Knights of Columbus, and he is working with Congress on Capitol Hill trying to get more funding. What do you hope that the administration will do differently going forward?
Going forward, we now have the Mosul military campaign with a new wave of refugees. These are not Christians, but the problem, my fear is that the genocide victims, the Christians, the Yazidis, will be forgotten again. They will not be able to go home unless they get tremendous amount of U.S. Economic support, but also a plan for their security. They can't go back to these villages in Nineveh, if they don't have security.
Right. And what is your thought, very quickly, we only have a few seconds, what is your thought on our immigration policy?
Well, it's deplorable. We don't, we have a big immigration policy for Syrian refugees, and Christians account for 0.5% of that.
I actually was on a White House call and I asked that, and they said, I don't know, just not even 1%. So
that's their own database.
Right, that's right. Okay, thank you so much, Nina Shea, the director of the Center for Religious Freedom at the Hudson Institute.
Thanks, Lauren.
2 shipwrecks claim the lives of hundreds of migrants trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea. Survivors say as many as 240 people died off of the coast of Libya when choppy water collapsed rubber dinghies. The United Nations Refugee Agency says more than 4,000 migrants have died this year in the Mediterranean, the highest count on record. Britain plans to appeal a court ruling that the government can't start Brexit without the involvement of the country's parliament. Brexit advocates say their concerned politicians will now try to block or delay Britain's exit from the European Union, which voters already approved in June. Coming up, Pope Francis condemns violence, what he told an interfaith group at the Vatican today. And the Holy Father extends mercy to inmates, why he's reaching out to prisoners during this Jubilee year. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Lauren Ashburn. Pope Francis says he's praying for earthquake victims in Italy. The pontiff called the Archbishop of Spoleto-Norcia to express his closeness to the people affected by the most recent quakes. The Archbishop tells Vatican Radio the damage left many people homeless and destroyed historic artwork. The Pope says he's saddened by the collapse of so many sacred buildings and symbols of faith. And the Holy Father welcomes 200 members of an interfaith delegation to the Vatican. The group represents various religions, including Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. Many are involved in charity work. Francis told them it's terrible when people try to justify violence in the name of religion or in the name of God. The Vatican unveils one of the final celebrations for the Year of Mercy. Today, it's the Jubilee for Prisoners, a group close to the Pope's heart. And the Vatican says it's a first.
This Jubilee will be celebrated in St. Peter's for the first time. And for the first time, prisoners will come to the Holy Door and celebrate the Holy Mass together with Pope Francis.
Mary Shovlin joins us from Rome. Mary, the Vatican has never had a Jubilee for prisoners. What does this entail?
That's right, Lauren. It is another unprecedented event in this papacy of Pope Francis. The prisoners are invited from all over the world to join Pope Francis in their Jubilee, which is taking place this weekend. We have 1,000 that have been they're being sent from all over the world. They were invited through bishops' conferences at the local level, and about 1,000 were chosen from about 12 different countries. So they're all making their way here. They're going to go through the Holy Door. They're going to hear different catechesis in all of their native languages. About 4,000 people will be here in all. So about 1,000 who are incarcerated who will have permission to be here, along with their loved ones and their family members, prison chaplains, and those who minister them. So a lot of wonderful events, unprecedented, happening here in the Vatican this weekend.
This is part of the Year of Mercy, but why does the Pope make it a point to reach out to prisoners specifically?
Well, we've seen since the beginning of his papacy that wherever he goes internationally, most of the time he chooses to go to one of the local prisons, and he really spends a lot of time there, really greeting the inmates one by one. I was speaking to Archbishop Fisichella today after the press conference, and he said every time Pope Francis speaks about prisoners, he says, that could have been me, which means it could have been any one of us to fall into an unfortunate situation, make a bad decision. Does that mean we're excluded from mercy? Certainly not. And he said it wants to show that God's mercy is not stopped by prison bars.
Mary Shovlin, thank you so much. The Pope, when he came here, actually did go to a prison in Philadelphia. Mary Shovlin in Rome. Have a good night.
You too.
Up next, Cubs fans can't believe their luck. The team wins a World Series for the first time in more than 100 years. One man knows the players well. The Cubs chaplain tells us what he prayed for. Today, the church celebrates the feast of St. Martin de Porres. The Dominican mystic was born in the 16th century in Lima, Peru, and later canonized by Pope John XXIII. De Porres was known for his care of the sick and poor. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Lauren Ashburn. The Cubs bring the World Series trophy back to Chicago after 108 years. Fans erupted in cheers last night outside Wrigley Field when their team beat the Cleveland Indians. Game 7 went into the 10th inning and didn't end until after a rain delay. The Cubs finally broke the longest drought in Major League Baseball history.
Cubs were terrific. Just a great night.
I'm inspired. I don't know when I'll ever sleep again. This was amazing.
I'm just like weeping openly right now. I'm covered with fears and tears, and I just can't believe that this has happened.
That's a great. Joining us now is Father Burke Masters, the chaplain for the Chicago Cubs. Congratulations. How's it feel to be World Series champions?
It's a little surreal here in Chicago to be talking about the Cubs as the world champions. I have to admit that. I've talked to many friends today, and they thought it was actually a dream until they saw their newspaper and
right.
it was real.
Right.
The champs.
Did you pray with the team beforehand? Were you? I don't think you were there.
Yeah, so I was here in Chicago, they're in Cleveland, and I had the opportunity on ESPN to give a blessing to the team, which is, quite surprising that they asked me to do that. And on Game 6, we won, and then they said, if they win, would you come back? And I said, I can't pass up this opportunity.
That's right. And any texts from players or to players?
Yeah, so I was texting the guys who come to Mass, just tell them I'm praying for them, good luck. And, my prayer is always that they play to the best of their ability, they don't get hurt, and give glory to God. And, Miguel Montero, who comes regularly to Mass, got a big hit in the 10th inning, and just so excited for him. It's been a rough year, but I don't think he's thinking about the rough times today.
Right. People often toss around they're praying for a win, but from a theological perspective, that's not really okay. What you're saying is that you pray that they're safe and that they give glory to God.
Exactly. That's always my prayer. And that because God's given these guys some incredible gifts, just like, each one of us have our own gifts. They've been given the gift to play baseball. And one of the ways they can give glory to God is by playing to the best of their ability. And I think we saw that. There were some nerves last night, but both teams played incredibly well the whole series. It'll be one for the ages.
You have to tell me, how are you planning to celebrate?
Wow. Well, I'm back here at work the next day, and everybody here has, their blue on, and everybody's celebrating. And we're waiting to hear about the parade in Chicago to see when and where. And I'm not a big crowd fan, but I may have to take part in that celebration.
What about with your parishioners? Will you be doing anything with them?
Well, so I live at the cathedral here in Joliet, Illinois, but I'm also the vocation director. So I'm celebrating a lot with our seminarians from the diocese. Some of them are White Sox fans, so they're not the happiest today, but our Cub fans are rejoicing. So we're going to have to celebrate here soon. And just to remind our viewers, you were actually considering a career in baseball, and this is just a perfect match for you. Yeah, my dream was that I'd be out there playing in a game like last night, but God had other plans. And so when I got ordained, I thought I was giving up baseball forever, and He brought it back in this incredible way. And it's just so humbling to see how God uses all of our gifts and talents. And, I'm just beyond words to express what I'm feeling today, to be able to be a part of this Cubs championship. Well, and it goes to show you, if you put it all in God's hands, He can do a lot better than we can on our own. Yeah, I always say I had this plan for myself, and God had this incredible plan. Right. I've had that same experience, Father. Father Burke Masters, chaplain for the World Series champs, the Chicago Cubs. I like how that sounds. Great. And that does it for us this evening. For the EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Lauren Ashburn. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can follow me at Lauren Ashburn. Good night, and God bless.